Hi, I'm Caroline. Welcome to the Stylish Pen, where Susan Scott and I have authentic conversations about the sometimes heartbreaking world of writing, editing, and publishing. Today, we're going to ask the question, should writers be reading, and how much, and what should they be reading?
Yep, great question. Great question.
3 questions.
And yeah, I mean, it's the question because how often do we run into people who, especially early on, when they're wanting to write their hearts out, are afraid to read because
Yeah.
they feel like they will be too influenced by what they're reading. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's hard. I had a ballet teacher once who said that she couldn't watch any dance performances when she was choreographing because she would be too influenced by it.
Yeah.
I think you're influenced whether you like it or not. But I think
Hmm.
if you can stay true to your voice, which is another episode of ours that you need to check out if you haven't seen it, um, then I think if you can stay true to your own voice and your own style, I don't think you're in danger of copying it. There's no trademark on structure. Like you can structure your book however you want. If you see a brilliant structure, you can do that. Um, but if you stay true to your story, your book will be yours.
See, that just instills such confidence in people to hear that. And I think that's the message, of course, like we start with it, that's the message we would end with. And then there's that murky middle where people just still doubt that they even have found their voice or that they know how to stay true to it. And unfortunately, then it's the thing where they actually do shy away from reading the very things they need most to nourish them, right?
Yes.
And inform them while they're working. Okay, so let's make our pitch for why that's so important. So talk about when you were writing your memoir. Why?
Yeah. And actually when I was editing somebody's memoir recently, I asked her if she was reading and she said no. And I thought, oh no, you need to start seeing what's out there, what people are doing, because then you also see what works and what doesn't work. And I think that seeing what doesn't work is just as important. But for example, and I'm gonna pull out your book first. If you haven't read this book, this is a phenomenal book, short stories that was edited by Susan here. Um, and I mean, I love the stories inside. They were short stories, so that's actually something I'm going to study for the next thing I'm working on. But for my book, it was your introduction, which actually gave me permission to write some of the things I wanted to write about the whole spirituality and religion, which is in my book quite a bit. I can't not be in Poland. But I think that was huge for me because I saw what you wrote and it was like, oh, it's okay. I can say that. I can say what I really think, which was
Okay.
really great. And then the other ones, my desk is like filling up with books back here. Another one, this was so this Ben Aitken Chip Shop in Poznan. Yes, it takes place in Poland, but him and I are complete. I really wouldn't have picked up this book. I don't think if it wasn't just in the deep dive of books that I was doing.
Hmm.
Um, he's a travel writer and he's a comedian, and the book was hilarious. But what it did is it showed me bits and pieces that I didn't think were interesting that I realized he was writing about. I found some similarities. And then I thought, oh, again, it sort of gave me permission to add some things that I thought were commonplace or weren't interesting, and to
Okay.
maybe, just make fun of everybody's cultures, including our own, and my sort of out of, what is it, a fish out of water feeling that I had a bunch of times
Uh-huh.
when I was
That's
there. So that was really interesting. And then one that is completely out of my genre that I was, because I was memoir with history,
mhm.
um, is this one.
Here goes
Um,
him.
yeah, and it's sort of an amalgamation of poetry and essays and thoughts and everything. And I really liked it too because the way my book is divided up, I have those shorter stories, those pieces in it, right? It's not
Mhm.
all just it's not like sometimes a chapter is broken up into little bits and pieces.
Mhm.
And so through this, I mean, I love her tone. I love how she writes. It's just so inviting and so welcoming. But what it really helped me do as well is it helped me um, figure out how to piece together things, bits and
Mhm.
pieces. That makes sense.
Okay. So many interesting things there that you've just touched on. So I remember when we were the whole project of you working on your memoir and the kind of editing conversations we had for a year. Part of the what was really came to the fore for me. Remember when this happened was apart from memoir, apart from content, apart from family history, all that stuff, somewhere along the line, it dawned on me that, oh, we are talking about smart, secular Jewish women. This is your tribe,
Yeah.
girl. You need to learn who these women are. And that's where Grace Paley comes in, right? She came in that string of, brilliantly productive secular Jewish intellectuals. Like they're just such a fantastic group of them. And Grace Paley was one of those names. Like, so in that sense, of course, you found a way to relate what you were reading in the reader to what you were working on, but even behind that was for me thinking, okay, this is for you to find a sensibility that
Mm-hmm.
you are actually in this group. And it's a big interesting group. Typically we don't, I don't know where you'd have to go to find a concentrated version of it. I'm sure there's offering classes on this somewhere. You need to be
That'd be
or you
great.
teaching that class, but it is, for a writer to feel like they have um, a cohort of some sort, dead or alive,
Yeah.
and that you belong, like that your sensibility actually belongs in with a group of really interesting people. There's something about that also grants permission, just in the same way that you said, okay, you read my introduction to Body and Soul. I'm always trying to give people permission just to be able to talk about religion, faith, spirituality, because there's very little cultural space in Canada to do that. So if
Yeah.
it's part of your story, just do it. Let's just get it out there. Let's learn how to talk about it. So you're doing that, but this backdrop of these incredibly interesting, the sensibility that the secular Jewish women bring to writing is second to none. It's fantastic. Those are your people. And yeah, until you, as a writer, if you get to identify who those people are and start reading their works, I think it unlocks something inside. I would say that happened with you.
Yeah, I remember when you said that, now that you're saying it again, and it freaked me out, and it scared me. It scared me. And then after I started thinking about it and I started doing the deep dive and I started just picking up everything and looking for everything that they had written, then I got excited, I guess, because I thought, okay, well, maybe I can be like them one day if I try really, really hard. And so it was really inspirational at the end of the day, because I thought it just pushed me to want to learn more
Okay.
and be better at what I'm doing. And then it started also giving me ideas for other things that I could write.
Okay. What was the scary part? Given that we're talking about people's ambivalence now, just unpack that a bit, because then people who are spooked can relate to what you're saying.
It was intimidating.
It
It
was
was, yeah,
Gideon Gornick in the same sentence as Caleb.
yeah.
That's
It's
intimidating.
that's the thing, right?
Yes.
Like who am I to identify with these women
Uh-huh.
who've done all of this? And so that's the biggest. I think that's what scared me the most, is just that these women are intimidating. They've published all these books, and who am I to think that I could possibly stand in their presence?
That's
Um,
interesting. Yeah. Well, and isn't that the natural writerly insecurity too, right?
yeah.
And any books we have that we love that stood the test of time, it's the imposter syndrome,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah.
Who am I to do this? And so we want to over identify with, emerging writers or people at exactly the same position that we might be in. But really, it's like, no, think of people that you love and aspire to, those people who really, those works you go back to again and again and again. Those are your people. You're maybe not at that level yet. You might have to die and have a few hundred years behind your name before you get
Right.
there. It's okay, you might just get there. Those are your people. Yeah, just love it, own it. And
I found that, like, as soon as we started really breaking it down and we started, um, deciding what we liked, or what I liked, what I didn't like. And I started kind of listening, paying attention to their voice and what they were saying. That's when I started to think, okay, wait a sec, I can say what I want to say in my own voice too.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I started, am I still intimidated? Yeah, obviously. Vivian Gornick walks up my driveway, I'll have a panic attack. But at the same time, I can start to see how I can do that in my own work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Excellent. That's fantastic. And as soon as that happens, and it's only going to happen through reading, because Vivian is not walking up your driveway any minute. You're only going to be visiting with Vivian in print, right?
Yeah.
So that's the only place to have that encounter. And if you can consent to that and say yes, then that's where growth starts, right? That's the growing edge, I think. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Yeah.
I think and then the other thing that was really cool is for me, particularly when I started doing my big deep dive while I was writing, I was reading more, not less. Right. And I think I was able to also discover some books that I would not normally have picked up. Not that I wouldn't have been interested, but just probably wouldn't have come across my computer screen through my feed. Like another book, this one's beautiful. And I mean, she's one of thousands of awards for this book, but The Beautiful Forevers. Yeah. I probably wouldn't have picked it up, but because I was just looking for different kinds of memoirs and nonfiction, and I was specifically also looking for books that were about different countries and different cultures. I think that's one of the things I was looking for more than anything. And I mean, this book has nothing to do with what I was writing about, and it's completely different. And she's coming at it from a completely different perspective than I was coming into my book. So I'd argue that this book is completely not what I was writing about. It just happens to be nonfiction, but still not the same. Yeah. But just the way she treated people, the way she talked about this culture that she actually wasn't or isn't a part of.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So that was, and because there's always that idea too, when you're, in my case, because it's memoir, like how much do you say, how much do you not say, how far do you go? And so I was able to find that too. Like for me, I don't care what book I'm reading, and I don't care if it's a novel. I'm going to try to look at how it relates to what I'm working on.
Right.
Even if it's completely different, like a completely different space.
Yeah, exactly. Which is fair. So I'm going to give an example about if you're working on a specific piece and you're trying to do a deep dive into it. So I have a chapter in my memoir, Sainted Dirt, which is still under construction. And it's about all the chapters have to do with family history, but there's one chapter in particular where I really want to work on the lineage and the matriarchy in the family. And there's a lot of Northern Irish Protestant lineage, and I wanted to capture that in the lingo that I grew up with my grandmother and my mother and my sister and I and my aunt. And it's a female-dominated culture, neurotic as hell, and a very particular kind of Northern Irish Protestant sensibility, which is a very teeny tiny proportion of people on the planet, but it's also had a kind of outsized influence in terms of understanding, conflict, right, with people's the troubles and just how much angst and fury and bloodshed has been connected to those people. Those are my people. So I have 3 books that I go to sleep with these under my pillow. One is Dermot Healy's The Bend for Home. Now Dermot Healy has died. He's just, look at this, fantastic. I would have.
That's a great
fallen big time for Dermot. If Dermot were walking up my driveway, I would have fallen big time. So this came out in '96, and it's about I love this, The Bend for Home, and it's a memoir, and it's Irish. He's Irish Catholic, not Protestant, but his mother and his aunt are kind of falling apart, and he has to take care of them. So it's full of all that, those dynamics, right? Old women's bodies falling apart, which is just right up my alley. Exactly what I wanted to talk about. Family neurosis up the wazoo, absolutely spectacular. I love it, and the kind of compressed nature of the Irish landscape and history and language and how they work together. Susan Olding, I always go to when I'm working, because she's like the tidying influence, right? So I go, so, so here's like the Dermot Healy messy, all the raw material, the
Right.
big emotional stuff that's in my family. And then Susan has a way of just, moving elegantly through complexities. So I feel like I can breathe with her. Like, okay, I can sit with her sensibility, and she helps me structure and order things. And then the third one, because I always work in threes, so the magical thinking, is back to the Irish Brilliant, but not memoir. And it's Edna O'Brien, Saints and
Oh, yeah.
Sinners. And Edna O'Brien is in her 90s. She's phenomenal. And what she does in the short stories, even though it's all fiction, it's then I can see structure in terms of a single chapter, right? How to work with complex characters and material, standalone piece. And again, she takes me deep into landscape, history, pain, pathos, families destroying one another at the drop of a hat. And somehow and also because she's a woman author, right? So
Yeah.
it's that sense of permission. I kind of come out of it thinking, all right, if I can balance all of this madness and neuroses with the tools that literature gives me, then maybe there's hope. There's hope, right? I can come out the other end. So yeah, I'm shameless, sleep with them under my pillow, go back to them
Yeah.
repeatedly. And somehow I feel like those are the guides I need, especially if you're working with family stuff, because it's a lot of toxicity. It's a bit like kryptonite, right?
Yeah.
It's so close. So you need to have guides. And
Oh, yeah.
these are the
Because the last thing you want to do is air dirty laundry. That's not the point.
No, that's absolutely not the point.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And you have to elevate these characters who in your real life kind of destroyed one another, but through through the crucible that is literature, you're getting at something that's actually restoring a sense of dignity to these people
Yeah.
and putting their story together. And that's alchemy, right? That's a
Yeah.
very delicate act. Yeah.
And in a not so eloquently put way, I mean, that's what your readers are able to relate to.
Exactly. That's what they want. That's why they're reading your memoir, because they want to know, how did you do that with your family? So there's hope for them, what they can do with theirs.
Yeah. And I mean, and just so in case anybody else is watching, I mean, it extends to everything. It really does, because when you take it apart, whether it's real or not, a story is a story. And so those elements they'll show up everywhere. It doesn't matter if I'm writing a novel. It's still, and I'm talking about a family, I still have to show it in the same way, because you still want your reader to relate to it. So
exactly. You're still dealing with the same
tying it all in. Yeah.
Yep. Character, yep. Time, symbol, myth.
Yeah.
All that stuff. Yeah. No
all
matter
the same.
what form.
Yeah.
So read. Don't kid yourself. Read. Reading is the sustenance that you need. Don't shy away from it.
Exactly. And then sleep with the books under your pillow.
Sleep with the books under your pillow. That's the magic. That's really what it comes down to.
That's right.
What better advice do you need than that? Okay.
None. So thank you everyone for joining us. Make sure to like and follow and check out some of our other videos, and maybe with this one, especially the one on voice.
Exactly. And send us your suggestions. If you have topics you have, we'd love to hear about those too.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you'd like us to cover a topic, please let us know in the comments as well. Because
believe me, we will have something to say, whatever you say.
That's right.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Bye for now.